banners unfurl over 100 worlds as the first Fremen legions leave Arrakis. Their eyes shine blue in blue, their cry rings in every spaceport, and the symbol of the Atreides hawk rises beside the green and black flag of Muad'Dib. Paul never intended this storm, yet it breaks the moment he claims the throne of Shaddam IV. Guild highliners arrive by prearranged bribes of spice, disgorging the Feyd-Rautha and newly sworn warriors of the Naib Corps. Each step of the jihad is recorded in the missionary chronicles of Irulan and in the terrified communiques of noble houses. The first year sees the fall of Khaitan, not by siege, but by ritual humiliation. Imperial bureaucrats are marched through the streets barefoot, spice-hued canley marks painted on their faces. A single regiment of Feyd-Rautha executes Sardaukar prisoners on the palace plaza, casting their bodies into the fountains to stain the water red. News of the act races along guild channels. Resistance on nearby worlds collapses without a shot, convinced that desert demons can appear anywhere and kill without remorse. With Khaitan subdued, the jihadi fleets fan out in 3 prongs. The northern route strikes Balut, Bela Teguse, and 3 Delta, Kaising. At Feyd-Rautha, local defenders use forbidden atomics against an approaching troop lander. The response from Arrakeen Command is immediate. A water tribute is levied equal to 10 times the planet's natural rainfall. Reservoirs that nurtured generations are drained into space. Feyd-Rautha capitulates, and its ruling council is replaced by a Fremen Naib chosen by a sand sorting of shards from melange crystal, to remind all that life and spice are now the same commodity. In the southern loop, the Crusade encounters Muad'Dib Prime, polluted home of the fallen Harkonnens. There, the Feyd-Rautha dig deep trenches around every factory, spill flammable Kanat oil, and ignite firebreak rings that choke the sky in black smoke for weeks. Survivors mutter that the fires spell Muad'Dib's name in ancient glyphs. Ixian observers note that spice tithes extracted from Muad'Dib Prime rise to 10% of its gross product within months, enriching Arrakis while choking local industry. The message is ruthless but clear. Submission profits, defiance consumes. Years 2 and 3 bring the jihad to distant Sikun and Kelsum. There, Fremen outriders ride stolen suspensor bikes across crystal deserts, teaching local tribes the Crysknife code. We give water to the dead and take water from the living. Thousands volunteer, hungry for purpose and promised a place near the Mahdi in afterlife. Irulan records her growing horror as children barely trained in blade work are shipped to frontier garrisons. Their deaths feed the mythic cycle, each martyr's name added to sermons broadcast from Arrakeen. Paul reads daily casualty scrolls in his private tower, feeling a tightening knot of guilt he cannot voice. He orders no atrocity, yet each command he issues, secure this planet, silence that rebellion, feeds the crusade engine. Aliyah, ruling as regent in his absence, reassures him that the jihad is destiny's toll. Stilgar counsels that the only path out is through. Only total victory can exhaust the bloodlust. But Paul sees in prescient flashes oceans of red across shining cities, and he knows the wave will not spare the innocent. On Naraj Year 4, defenders deploy subterranean plasma mines. Feyd-Rautha sappers respond with Kanat water bombs that flood the mines, dousing plasma ignition and drowning entire battalions in darkness. Refugees pour into spaceports begging for asylum. The Guild, beholden to Paul's spice monopoly, can only ferry them to penal colonies where they are pressed into labor to build new fleets for the jihad. The 5th year brings a pivot. Guild navigators warn Paul of economic overextension. The spice horde cannot sustain infinite wars. Paul directs a halt, thinking to restrain the flood, but his generals interpret the order as tactical regrouping. Local nabes launch raids on their own initiative, justified by passages in the Orange Catholic commentary about righteous cleansing. One such raid on Al-Danab kills 3 million civilians in a single week-long siege. Paul's shock turns to silent rage. He convenes the Khazarate Council and denounces indiscriminate slaughter, yet the meeting dissolves in doctrinal debate. The jihad now speaks with its own voice, louder than its prophet. Year 6, worlds that surrendered early grumble under spice taxes and religious schools that rewrite local history. On Arroyo, a quiet uprising beheads its Fremen governor. The reprisal is swift. A legion arrives, lines the streets with captured rebels tied to water pipes, and leaves them to dehydrate in the heat of twin suns. Paul receives the report at dawn and smashes the data crystal, shards scattering across his desk like tiny knives. He thinks of the innocent dead on Caladan, who once trusted him, and wonders whether he has become the tyrant he sought to overthrow. In the final phase, the jihad pushes into the scattering frontier, planets yet unnamed in imperial cartography. Fighting devolves into guerrilla raids, pocket crusades run by splinter sects carrying Muad'Dib's banner, but owing him no loyalty. He dispatches Stilgar to rein them in, but each new commander returns speaking of impossible zeal. Even Stilgar admits some cells prefer martyrdom to surrender. By year 7, total confirmed deaths exceed 61 billion. Economists hail a new age of Atreides-led commerce. Theologians debate whether the blood price accelerates human evolution. The Khazarate declares an era of universal pilgrimage to Arrakis. Spice harvest quotas double, and desert ecology strains under uncontrolled growth of water caches and pilgrim camps. Sandworms migrate in unusual patterns, sensing the imbalance, mirroring Paul's own unease. In his private chambers, Paul gazes toward the shield wall and whispers, "I am the voice that must not speak." He considers destroying all spice to halt the jihad with economic shock. Yet prescience shows that act birthing even greater wars. The holy storm he rides will burn itself out only after saturation, when faith exhausts its fuel. Until then, he must wear the mantle of prophet while knowing the deaths pile higher than the dunes beyond Sietch Taberet. Irulan's final chronicle of the campaign ends with a single line. Muad'Dib's empire stands astride a sea of skulls, and the tide has not yet ebbed. The universe learns that prophecy fulfilled is rarely gentle, and that the greatest victories can chain a savior more tightly than any defeat. Click below and reward yourself with another fascinating and exciting story.